where do I start? I'm an emotional, taking in your sweet and considerate heart. Come into my world, give me your spark. Time to land and visit the planet. Give me your try. Still wanna make you sure I'm the reason to come back here. Just don't linger too much, 'cause you're a stranger, baby. So come get to know me. Don't be a stranger now. Dark, I'm wanting you. Always apart, I'm so emotional. Every time you pack up and leave in your car. Why can't you stay here, soak up the charm? Take a breather, I'm all you needed. Give me your heart, I wanna make you sure I'm the reason to rest up here. If you don't linger enough, you'll be a stranger, baby. So come get to know me. Don't be a stranger now.
2 races down and 6 more to go. We had a fantastic photo finish 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. After rolling the dice, we come to one of the oldest surfaces on the service, which is known for its classic finishes. Hotlanta, some people call it. Tonight, I think it's going to be that. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to FTF.GG's live coverage. Third race, first round of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia. Glad to have you along for the ride, everybody. Jacob Pitts, James Pike, and Caleb Hoffman here with you. Justin Malillo down on pit road. As I mentioned, James, this is the oldest surface likely on the sim that we have. These trucks are going to be without grip and slipping and sliding all race long.
I believe by my math, it's the joint oldest surface tied with Auto Club Speedway. Both tracks in the sim with these current scans paved in 1997. So yes, we're working with the 20-plus-year-old asphalt that was in place before the repave that took place over the winter in real life, which means that we have the old Atlanta, the 24 degrees of banking, but we have the tire wear, the tire conservation, the tire everything. This track may be more so than just about any other outside of Rockingham, notorious for needing to manage tires over the course of a long green flag run. If we get them, you want to find speed on lap 40, make sure you don't kill your tires within the first 10 laps of a run.
I hope Justin Malillo has a cheese grater and a Goodyear tire standing by for when we get to him. Caleb, we've been relatively clean throughout these first 2 races. Only one caution throughout these 2 races. Are we going to keep with that theme so far, or is that going to change here tonight?
You know, the blueprint to winning races so far this year has been just, when you pit on these long green flag runs, don't take yourself out of the race. Don't make these errors. And, tonight at Atlanta, we're going to have that tire conservation element that you're talking about. So, these trucks are going to be on edge because, once those tires get worn out, it's going to be a handful to drive. So I think tonight we're going to be a little more under yellow tonight than what was, than what we've seen these last 2 weeks. But, I would still expect a relatively clean race for sure.
Let's take a look at our points for the qualifying iRacing series so far. Again, 2 races are done so far this season, and right now, up at the top of the standing should be Seth DeMerchant. With the drop. Of course, this is without the drop that you're looking at here. So Daniel Roper, Andrew Navarro are at the top. It's actually, okay, so we're just going to ignore points for right now. It is just about race time. And James, you mentioned this. We are on the old surface. We're on the old banking. This is not the new Atlanta Motor Speedway that we're going to see this weekend in the real world for NASCAR. That's not yet on the sim. We are running the same racetrack that we saw last year, not only on iRacing, but in real life. 24 degrees of banking in the corners, old, really bumpy surface.
Anywhere from 2 to 5 degrees of banking on the straights as we wait for the grid to fill in and get set to bring in the starting grid. But yes, lots of fun to be had here over the course of 100 laps, 150 miles, around 240 kilometers, 3 green, white checkered tents if we need them, 3 sets of tires available for these drivers in the pits. The big number to watch, though, especially if this goes green, 45-ish laps on average on the tank of fuel. The range is anywhere from 43 to 47 from what we've heard from some of the drivers and our very own Justin Malillo. So that will be the number you need to watch because it ensures that you will at least have to pit twice in this race.
Let's run through our starting grid here tonight from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Brandon McKissick lines up on pole position. Jonathan Delaney lines up to the outside. Then in the 3rd and 4th spot, Brendan Kohler and Omar Diallo. Wyatt Tinsley lines up in position number 5 with Justin Knobloch to the outside. Ryan Doucette and Daniel Buttafuoco line up in row 4. And rounding out row 5, Cody Turland and Will Klein.
Jordan Worth starting on the inside of row number 6. He'll roll off from 11th. James Wenzel begins tonight from 12th. In 13th, it'll be Dustin Montgomery. Will Cooley starts on the outside of row 7. Row 8, 15th on the grid is Jesse Spores. 16th belongs to Connor Shawn. Michael Frisch begins tonight from 17th. He's joined on the outside of row 9 and 18th by Brandon Hall. Garrison Hogan and Garrett Conrath complete the top 20.
Yeah, we'll look at P21. We got Tommy Gossett alongside Connor Horn, Devin Hall, Matthew Lee. Then we got Caden Rush in row 13 alongside the winner from Las Vegas in that epic finish, Matthew Thunhorst. Then we got Barrett Bonner, Michael Venable, Brett Suggs, and Lucas Cram.
Dallas Pataska, Michael Rosario, PJ Evans, Landon Huffman, and last week's winner, second place finisher, actually, Joseph lines up shotgun on the field. For late-breaking stories on pit road, a little bit of strategy talk, let's go downstairs to the fourth member of our team, Justin Melillo. Justin.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, tires are going to be huge tonight. We saw in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola race earlier this week on Tuesday, tires almost played a hand in the end of the race. Many drivers opting to stay out, many drivers that came in that almost won the race all the way from the back. So we'll be looking for tire strategy. Fuel window, like you said, they're probably going to have to pit twice. You might see guys coming down at lap 33. It'll be an interesting one to watch.
Thank you, Justin. And of course, we'll be going to him throughout the race as the strategy kind of builds around this racetrack and around these teams. So 35 drivers set to go in race 3 on the season. Brandon McKissick's on the gas. Green flag in the air. We are underway from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Back to the stripe, Brandon McKissick leads lap 1. Brandon Kohler and Wyatt Tinsley side by side for that number 2 spot, back to 1.
Good work there from McKissick to get clear by maybe a truck length. Tinsley working to the inside of Kohler to the outside. Also worth noting that this is the first race for the new Toyota Tundra. All new scan of that truck for the ground up. So this is its debut in this eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. Some tweaks to the Chevrolet Silverado and the Ford F-150, especially with the front fascia. The new nose is, of course, introduced in the real-life NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, but it's the Toyota that's had the most significant change. So I'll be curious to see how well that truck performs compared to the other two in this race. But so far, I don't think they'll complain all that much about holding first and holding fourth, at least for the time being.
Wyatt Tinsley poked his nose out in front, but here comes Jonathan Delaney to the inside, side by side. No, he's just going to take the position right on by. He'll take the lead. Here comes Justin Knobloch downstairs. Wyatt Tinsley's going to shut the door on him at the start-finish line.
Interesting to see that for those first few opening laps, and we even see Wyatt Tinsley poking his nose up to the middle. He's going to fall back down, though. A few trucks are tempted to kind of use this outside because, you know, just trying to see where they can fit their nose, see where it works. Again, this is the old Atlanta, so, you know, just trying to keep their momentum up on the high side, it looks like, but it looks like slowly dying out on that outside lane.
Field comes off turn 4 in that outside line. You're right, is kind of dying off, at least in this very front lead pack. These guys are almost driving this place right now, James, like it were a plate track instead of a traditional 1.5 mile that we would see out of these trucks or really anywhere.
You say that, but I actually think that this race isn't nearly as restrictor platey as what we saw in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series on Tuesday night. Most of that race, you saw drivers running the next gens along the high line. In this race, it's the low line that, at least for the moment, seems to be the preferred place to be. You've got a few folks within the top 10 running on that high lane, but most everybody, if they've got the choice, they're going down low early.
Brandon McKissick, he's going to jump up to that outside line. And we saw the outside line really have its advantages on Tuesday with the next-gen cars. But here in these trucks, the script is reversed. You want to be on that bottom side.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll even take a look right now. It's just this outside lane is just, you know, I think a part of it is you want to try to conserve your tires by staying on this outside lane because, you're not turning the truck as much, so you're using a little less of those tires. So maybe we'll see that, kind of accumulate towards the end of the run, maybe kind of a short-term loss, long-term gain situation.
Brandon McKissick just keeps moving backward. He started on the pole position. He's now side by side for position number 10. Side by side with Cody Terland as they're 3 wide further back in this pack. And the whole field is kind of accordion together, and it's a traffic jam like I-95 in the middle of this pack.
More like I-20 or I-85 if we're here in Atlanta, but we'll go with it. We'll make it work, but you're right. A big stack up there right along. Jordan Worth seems to be pretty much dead center of all this, and Brendan Kohler in the middle of this too. But 3x3x3, this is not where I think you really want to be this early on in the race, because it's so easy to miscalculate the space you have, miscalculate the amount of room you've got next to somebody else, and get into someone and ruin not only potentially your race, but somebody else's race too.
And remember, Brendan John Kohler started in the 3rd position. He has plummeted and just kind of stuck on the bottom for dear life right now, right around that 13th position as they bring him around off turn 2 once again. And now things start to spread out a little bit more. Everybody's single file here in this top half dozen, but it gets a little bit tricky as we go further on through the field. And we find Matthew Thunhorst, who won 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. He's storming up the outside line.
Yeah, so I've been watching him the last few laps, actually. So you'll see it right here. He's using not the middle lane, but almost a 3rd lane. He's just kind of on that cushion on the high side, and he's just garnering this huge run on the straightaways, which has just propelled him like a rocket up into this top 6. Looks like he's going to take 5th right now.
3 wide for the 2nd spot. Wyatt Tinsley got shuffled to the middle. Here comes the 27, Omar Diallo, around the top side. He's going to clear Tinsley and clear Delaney. He will take the lead round the outside, and that's going to box in Thunhorst for the moment, as Wyatt Tinsley's like, well, I like what I saw out of that 27. I want to try the same thing upstairs.
That was a little bit closer than I thought it needed to be. Tinsley made the jump up high, and I'm not sure if he understood just how close that was to clipping the rear bumper of Omar Diallo's truck. But no problem, I suppose, for everybody, at least for the moment. But something you might want to be mindful of, you get later on into this race, people start getting a little bit more aggressive, especially if they're this tightly packed together. One wrong touch, and that could have been 3, 4, 5 trucks immediately involved. It could be more here, as Tinsley didn't get the greatest of runs on the inside of corner entry in turn 1, and now here comes Thunhorst for that runner-up spot up top.
Huge run on the outside line. Thunhorst and Buttafuoco upstairs trying to push this line along. Buttafuoco has had some good runs, just pit road problems. And then, of course, him getting turned on the back straightaway while leading at Daytona have been the reason that he has struggled throughout these first couple of races.
Yeah, and just watching right now, I'm looking kind of closer at this like top 10-ish range, and a lot of these guys are trying to kind of mimic what Thunhorst did to get up to that lead pack by just using that 3rd lane. I mean, remember Atlanta, before it became known for a worn out surface and tire preservation, this used to be one of the fastest tracks on the schedule. So kind of just channeling that old energy and using that momentum to propel yourself up to the front.
Matthew Thunhorst trying to go 2 in a row. He leads. Here comes Buttafuoco, though. Down on the inside, side by side for the lead. Buttafuoco down by the white line. Thunhorst up by the white wall. Let's see what kind of run that 23 gets around the top side.
Thunhorst is going to have the advantage of momentum on corner exit. You can roll momentum on that high line easier than you can on the bottom. But my big question for Thunhorst, especially if this goes green for a while, what does that right front tire look like, and how worn is it if we get to, say, lap 30, lap 35, lap 40, we get closer to the pit stops? You're running that outside lane. In theory, you're going a little bit longer distance around the racetrack, so it should be a little bit more worn out. I would expect that truck to fade just a bit more if we go green, but whether or not it does, we'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see, kind of see how those tires play out. And, of course, if we don't make it the whole way on a green flag run, well, then that really kind of shuffles the deck. But nonetheless, Thunhorst clear, back out in front. Here from Atlanta in the top half dozen. Are back single file choo-choo train style, almost the top 8. First side-by-side battle is back there with McKissick.
Yeah, I'm really just interested in how kind of this racing has been tonight. I mean, we've seen lines come and go in these like 5-lap phases almost, because early on we had that bottom lane being dominant, that outside was fading. Then all of a sudden Matthew Thunhorst led the outside lane on a huge charge, and for a few laps there that was the place to be. And now we've kind of gotten back single file, the bottom is kind of again the place to be. So I'm wondering if in about maybe 5 to 10 laps we see another challenger from outside the top 10 just surge into this top 5 using the outside lane.
And on board with Brandon McKissick, you may have heard a little bit, clutching the race car, trying to save a little bit of fuel and make this first green flag run a little bit longer if we do make it all the way to green flag pit stops.
Potentially something we need to be keeping track of, because McKissick, as much as he fell through this field like a stone, if that's all intentional and the strategy works out, then it's still playing into his hands. So yes, he might not necessarily be leading like he was, but if you're clutching and you're still in the top 10, you're going to end up going a little bit more on distance than everybody else. Maybe click off a few more laps before everybody else, before you come in pit road, and it may still be in his hands just yet. Meanwhile, another big mover in this field or two that we can talk about just on the edge of the top 10. How about Garrett Conrath, who's come up from 20th on the grid to 11th, and then Caden Rush and Devin Hall, who started 25th and 23rd respectively. They're 14th and 15th on the racetrack as they work lap 19 of 100.
Through turns 1 and 2 they go, and Thunhorst continues to lead this race. He's put up the fastest lap of the day so far with a 31.344. Actually, I lied. PJ Evans has a faster lap than some others in the background. They're kind of just stuck in the pack. They can't go anywhere, but out of those, at least that have been up at the front of the field, Thunhorst has put up the fastest lap so far.
Yeah, and just looking right now at lap times, I mean, they've already started to taper off quite a bit. We're at lap 20 right now, so, these tires very soon are going to start falling off exponentially. I mean, I'm thinking, although we've been pretty quiet so far, we could see an incident here or two within the next 5 to 10 laps.
Tire fall off more than a second, 20 laps into the run. By the time you get to lap 40 in a run, your tires are going to be screaming for mercy. Daniel Botafuco takes the lead. Thunhorst slots into second, right in front of Wyatt Tinsley.
And he's still committed to that high line, which we think could burn off the tires a little bit more, at least for now. I would think it's at about this point in a green flag run. We're closing it on halfway through our projected schedule 43 to 45 lap range, that you're going to start to see this sort of fall off from a Thunhorst or anybody else who's run that high line. But for the moment, he's got bigger issues to worry about than tire, where he's got Wyatt Tinsley who's outside trying to take away that second spot.
And Tinsley's going to do it. So move that 4 truck into the second position. And I think Wyatt Tinsley has really been impressive throughout these first 3 races so far this season. He's been up front, he's been clean, and he's been pretty consistent. Everywhere he's gone, that truck has shown speed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys in this top 10 right now that have kind of just, been consistently up front. I mean, with this points format, this isn't, what we are kind of used to with like a win and you're in type format. This is a long, grueling schedule. You got 8 races, and you just got to run as consistently as you can. Try to keep yourself out of trouble, rather. And for the most part, that's what we've been seeing these guys doing.
Here they come off turn number 2 down the back straightaway. And this pack back here in the thick of it. I'm getting nervous watching these guys come up off turn number 2 and turn number 4, because they are getting very, very close to that outside wall.
It's not as bad a corner exit as you'd find at somewhere like a Charlotte or a Texas, the sister tracks to Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's a little bit wider on corner exit here than it is there, but you still have that same sort of strange funneling effect to some degree on the exits of turns 2 and 4. And if you're running 2 or 3 wide, sometimes people will end up getting tight on corner exit, drift up into the fence. That can cause issues too. Was there contact a little bit further back there? I believe there might have been, Jacob.
It's possible. The more racy these guys get, as you see the onboard there, it's slipping and sliding. I'm going to hang on for the time being. as they make it back through the front straightaway and head back to turn one. Of course, not all splits have been the same. Top split, as we run on board with Connor Horn, the top split race, well, they are under caution for the first time, I believe the first time tonight, after 23 laps or so. So that's kind of the benchmark that's been set so far. We're exceeding that expectation as we come to complete 25 laps this time.
Yeah, and going back to Matthew Dunhorst real fast, so as we've seen, he's been pretty consistently using that high line, and it's been kind of a more aggressive passing line, you know, using that momentum to carry you through the straightaways. But looking right now, it is really starting to catch up with him. I mean, his last lap, he ran a 32.9 compared to Doucette on his inside, who did a 32.7. And a bunch of these other leaders are, you know, running 32.6s, 32.7. So he's already fallen off about 2/10, and you can see it here. He's just almost like an anchors to the back of that truck, just falling off.
Let's talk with Justin Melillo here for just a moment, talking about when we're going to see these drivers come to pit road if we keep it green. Justin.
I'm listening to the leader, and he is dumping the clutch into turn one, which is a fuel-saving technique that a lot of these guys are trying to put into play. So a lot of these guys might be trying to go on one stop, but you might have some that can't, and they'll have to come in for two. So we'll expect to see those guys on pit road probably trying to work a two-stop strategy in the next, I'd say, 3 to 8 laps.
Thank you, Justin. And it's interesting because now that's 3 races in a row that we've seen fuel strategy have more of an impact, I would say, than the racing itself.
I think to a point that's true, especially for the drivers who are able to get space. I look at that group towards the front of the field, and especially some of the people running in, call it 4th, 5th, 6th, the Knoblauchs, the Doucettes. Thunderhorse, though, he's sliding back. In Delaney and Winslow, there really hasn't been a lot of side-by-side racing amongst that group. And even further back, you can go to McKissick, Klein, Conrath, Kohler. Once they settle down, they really have not had to go door to door. You have to really step back to about Cody Terlin, Landon Huffman. That's about where the side-by-side battling has maintained throughout this green flag run. So those are the drivers that I think are going to be most worried, at least in a general sense, about their tire wear and where they may or may not stand.
Side by side for the 3rd spot, Daniel Botafuco, Justin Knoblauch side by side at the stripe. Again, that's for 3rd. Tinsley and Diallo lead the way, and now they're creeping up toward this middle line before arcing it down to the white line in the center of the corner, Caleb.
Yeah, whoa, big wiggle out of Knoblauch right there. But yeah, we saw it a little bit there. Omar Diallo, who's now in 2nd position, went all the way back up to the high side, 3rd lane to make a pass to get himself in position a second right now. We even see him peeking up on top of Wyatt Tinsley right now. He's still peeking the outside, looking to go side by side for the lead. It's just really interesting to see kind of the different mindsets. Some of these drivers being really aggressive trying to pass, and then everybody else is kind of, I think, nursing those tires a little more.
And there goes Diallo around the outside to retake the lead. Tinsley falls to 2nd, and already about 2 truck lengths between the two of them. It's going to open the door for Justin Knoblauch, who has closed in on the back door of these guys.
I think, to me, at this stage, I look at everybody who's single file, and this isn't necessarily a battle of who's faster than whom. This is more about track position and tire wear and fuel conservation and what have these drivers been able to do or not do, especially if they're looking for that two-stop strategy, which should see some folks come down pit road within the next few laps.
Coming into turn number 3. Still, Tinsley trying to chase down Omar Diallo. A little bit of a wiggle out of that 4th truck as they came up off the corner. They complete yet another lap. 32 laps are complete as everybody just tries to settle it out and eventually make their way toward potential green flag pit stops, which Justin Melillo thinks is going to be coming soon for those that don't plan on trying to make it in one stop.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm just trying to keep an eye out for any potential differing strategies from this, you know, two-stop type thing where we'll see guys start coming in relatively soon. I mean, at Vegas 2 weeks ago, we saw Joseph and Matthew Thunhorst pull off, you know, a one-stop strategy that was, insane because they had like a 10-15 second lead, and they were hemorrhaging lap time at the end of that run, but it was still such a big buildup that it didn't matter. So I'm wondering if anybody is kind of looking at that performance from Las Vegas and going to try to replicate that same thing here at Atlanta.
It's possible. Sometimes the best ideas ever made were made by somebody else, and you just were able to pull it off better. 34 laps are complete as we continue to close our way in on green flag stops. And throughout this entire field now, you got to wonder if that's just the motive for these guys. Just ride around and make it to green flag stops. Don't do anything stupid that could really impact your strategy and maybe the others along the way as well.
I would generally agree with you, but go back to Landon Huffman, currently in the 17th position. He's alongside another truck to his outside. That's Devin Hall racing for position. And this hasn't stopped around him. We mentioned Landon's name a few times already as the center of the action. I think that's only bearing to even more truth as we carry on through these opening 40 laps, because it seems like he's been alongside someone every single time I've looked back there around that 15th spot where he's been for the majority of the night so far.
Landon Huffman set the fastest lap of the race. Of course, these tires have fallen off by more than a second. For Huffman, it's close to 2 seconds of fall off, but he's still charging his way up through the field, now in the 18th position.
Yeah, I'm looking at Garrett Conrath, and yeah, he just ran a 33.0. And his fastest lap so far today has been a 31.5. So, I mean, around the 10th position, you're looking at about a 1.5 seconds fall off. So it's probably going to be any time now where you're just begging to get some fresh tires on these trucks.
How about battle for the lead? Wyatt Tinsley round the outside and retakes the lead from Omar Diallo. Justin Knobloch right to the back bumper of Diallo. That's going to open the door underneath for Buttafuoco to go to the bottom. They're going to be side by side for third for the moment. No, Buttafuoco backs out of it and instead falls right behind Knobloch.
Oh, did Omar Diallo have to check up hard in the middle of one? I saw the rear end of his truck completely sideways for a split second. He did not have a good corner entry last time by at all, and that nearly gave Buttafuoco the opportunity to make the move outright, which it looks like he's going to genuinely take a crack at here on lap 39 to the inside of Knobloch. He goes now to try and find a spot underneath Diallo. It's not there. He'll tuck back in line now in third.
Coming to 39 laps complete, we still have yet to see anybody come onto pit road. So, Justin, we turn back to you. You're now starting to think that most of the field might try and go on this one-stop strategy.
I was listening to the radio on Matthew Thunhorst earlier on, and he said, and I quote, either I have a bad fast truck or y'all are saving crazy. And he's kind of fallen back ever since he said that, and he might be on this saving strategy like everybody else has been this entire race. I mean, even earlier we heard Daniel Buttafuoco when he was in the lead, dumping that clutch in. So it could be completely possible that every single one of these trucks in this field is trying to make it on one stop.
3 sets of tires in the pits for these guys, so they've got plenty of rubber. And I saw the drivers pre-race were so happy that they had those tires in the pits, because throughout some of the other official series on iRacing, you don't get a lot of help as far as tires are concerned. You're lucky if you get more than 2 sets.
Perhaps, but again, if you don't end up in trouble and or we don't have a yellow flag, that's not really going to be much of a factor. If you get a yellow, that changes significantly, but for now, you should at least be expecting that you're going to need no more than 2 sets of tires to finish this off.
Leaders back to single file. I tell you what, Wyatt Tinsley has really pulled away, relatively considering, from everybody else. There's a significant gap between Buttafuoco and Justin Knobloch right now. Almost half a second.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Omar Diallo right now, even, he is starting to fall off quite a bit. We saw him again, was another one of those guys just really aggressive using that outside line, and he's about 2/10 off of everybody else. The lap, he just ran a 33.1, but the lap before that was a 33.4. So the amount of fall off that these guys have right now is just absolutely insane.
Through 3 and 4, the fall off continues to spread throughout this entire field, as it's roughly 1.5 to 2 seconds for everybody in this entire field. 43 laps are now complete, and you have to think at this point, James, these guys are committed to a one-stop strategy as long as we keep it green. Obviously, if cautions fall, things are going to kind of change a little bit. We may see different strategies, but I'd imagine everybody on the racetrack right now is thinking, I got to make it to halfway on this fuel and on these set of tires.
Well, the biggest question is, can you make it to halfway? We didn't project that when we started this race. I'm not necessarily convinced that even if you try and get it done on one stop, that you're not going to need a splash of fuel towards the end of the race. So we'll have to watch and see how these drivers tackle these next few laps, who decides to come down pit road. But we need to see people actually hit 50 first before we know that somebody can make it on one stop.
Perhaps as we had a spinner getting into turn number 3, they were able to hang on to the truck. And he's still sliding around on the apron. That's the 34 Matthew Lee, who keeps the truck straight. He was running 21st. He got loose coming off of turn number 2. Weeble-wobbed it all the way down the back straightaway onto the apron and was still sliding and without grip on the apron in turn number 3. He wrecked for half a lap, and he kept it going straight, didn't hit anything, and we're still green.
Yeah, we had another close call between Devin Hall and Michael P. Frisch out of turn 2. Devin Hall washed up middle 3 wide and made a little bit of contact with Michael P. Frisch. So I think right now, lap 47 on these tires, and at a track like Atlanta, I think we're kind of really starting to see not only these guys battling each other, but battling the track now as well.
One truck has made the call to come onto pit road. It's P.J. Evans in the number 9. He's gone a lap down, but he's off pit road now. As the field rolls it through 3 and 4, Wyatt Tinsley continues to lead as we are 3 laps from halfway here this time by.
Also of note, we talked about tire wear earlier, and we talked about how Thunhorse may fall off with the way he was running that outside so hard in the opening 20 laps of this race. He's already all the way back to 17 after charging to the race lead. The truck is not handling well. It's very loose in a lot of places on the racetrack, and he's just getting passed left, right, center by everybody. He may well fall back to near where he started, and at the end of it all, may not end up making that many gains after driving straight to the front of the field. He ran that truck so hard and wore the tires so much that he's almost given up everything he gained.
And I think he knew when he came over the radio and said, I'm either really fast or you guys are really sandbagging. I think he found off that maybe everybody was just kind of taking it easy out there, and Thunhorse was just going pedal to the metal like last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, he had a really strong charge and was really aggressive with it, but absolutely paying for it now, sitting back P18 and continuing to fall is just a case of using up your stuff a little too quickly.
Still only the one truck to have pitted in P.J. Evans. Everybody else is staying out. Wyatt Tinsley over the radio. He is coming in this time. Joseph is in. We are coming to the halfway point. Here they come off 4. Daniel Botafuco is going to get us to the halfway point. Pit road is about to be a busy place as here they all come. Thunhorst is coming. Got truck sliding it onto pit road. The Maryland car misses pit road. That is the 20 of Jesse Schwartz. He misses his box. That causes Joseph to miss his box as they try to go to the same place at the same time. And I think the 20 is going to have to go around. I think he missed his box entirely. He's just stopped it in the middle of pit road. Here comes the race leader. Botafuco is on pit road. And Knobloch and everybody else, Justin Melillo.
These guys have been screaming for tires this entire first half of the race. Now they'll finally get them, but now they're going to have to make them last until lap 100. This is it. 4 tires, fuel, fill it up, get it all the way. I cannot believe that 34 out of 35 trucks were able to make it halfway on one stop.
We've had one truck get a black flag, Jesse Schwartz, who we already talked about with his rotten, horrible, no good attempt at a pit stop there just moments ago. Brandon McKissick on pit road, Brendan Kohler, Wenzel, Diallo, Caden Rush, Garrison Hogan, Lucas Cram, and more coming onto pit road as the final couple of drivers that still need to make a stop is Jesse Schwartz. Well, he's just parked the car. He's done for the night. He's going home after trying to enter pit road. Jonathan Delaney is the only man that has not pitted. He's coming through turn 4 right now, and here he comes. So everybody now has made their green flag pit stops in roughly the span of 3 laps, which should hand the race lead over to Wyatt Tinsley. He's coming around through turn 2, trying to make his way around. He's 19 seconds behind Delaney. He has a 1.3 second lead over Botafuco. And he was almost a second, Tinsley, almost a second quicker in his pit stop from start to finish. That's how important pit road in a green flag pit stop really is here.
Yeah, that I think is the impressive thing, that gap is almost exclusively explained by the fact that Tinsley was 0.7 of a second quicker down pit road than Botafuco was. And look at the gap, it's 0.4 of a second now, but that gap isn't there if Tinsley doesn't have that great run through pit road. So maybe not a huge shocker to some point that Tinsley is there, although that truck seems like it's stumbling just a little bit with the handling. Here comes Botafuco for the race lead on lap 55.
Botafuco is a coming. He's got 1 lap less. Fresher tires. And to the inside, see you later, Daniel Botafuco. The New Jersey native pulls out in front here at Atlanta. And we're 5 laps past the halfway point. It's time to bring you our iRacing's kinda late midway race break, brought to you by iRacing. iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Daniel Botafuco is your race leader. Wyatt Tinsley is in second. Justin Knobloch sits in third. Then PJ Evans. Ryan Doucette rounds out the top 5. Will Klein in 6th. Garrett Conrath in 7th. Jonathan Delaney in 8th. Devin Hall in 9th. And Brendan Kohler rounds out our top 10, James.
11th currently belongs to Cody Tillin. Will Cooley rides in 12th spot. 13th is James Wenzel. 14th belongs to Justin Montgomery. Brandon McKissick rides in the 15th spot. 16th belongs to Michael Prefersh. 17th is where you'll find former race leader Omar Giallo. Same for Matthew Thunhorse, who now goes to 19th. And now 20th as Jordan Worth goes to 18th. Caden Rush to 19th.
Yeah, we got Landon Huffman, P21, Barrett Bonner in 22nd, Michael Rosero, Connor Horn, and Garrison Hogan round out your top 25. Brett Suggs, Dallas Pataska, Joseph, after a strong run last week, not having the luck he wants today. Lucas Cram, Connor Shong, Matthew Lee, we saw get sideways earlier. Brandon Houff, Tommy Gossett, Michael Venable, Dallas Pataska, and then the only car that is pulled off the track is Jesse Schwartz after we saw him have pit road problems earlier.
So 34 drivers left, all 34 of them on the lead lap. This concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 200,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get online today, get on track today at iRacing.com. Look at this gaggle back here. It is a hornet's nest. That is coming off of turn number 2. Back around the 15th position. Will Cooley, Dustin Montgomery in the thick of that.
Montgomery is there. James Winsell to his inside. Then Brandon McKissick to the inside of Omar Diallo. A lot of these trucks with pace. Diallo in particular, we saw with a lot of speed. The problem, you compare Wyatt Tinsley's pit lane time to Diallo's. I think this might be a big reason for why Diallo's back in 15th at 39.4 compared to Tinsley's 38.1. 1.3 seconds the difference. That's why Tinsley is the track position and Diallo is in the middle of this mess.
3 wide in the dog leg. You don't want to do that too often at any of these mile-and-a-half racetracks. Diallo immediately over the radio letting these guys know that, hey, we're 3 wide. Don't forget I'm there. And they were all able to survive. As he's now going to try and take over this 13th position. Make that the 12th position from Will Cooley.
Yeah, and we saw earlier the track for, maybe a segment of about 5 to 7 laps was, kind of engulfed by cloud cover and was, able to cool down. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of these guys were able to save as much fuel as they did, was because this track has just been in direct sunlight all day. So with that, you're losing a little bit of grip. So there's a little bit less on throttle time. So, maybe you're not using as much throttle and not using as much gas, and that's what's kind of opened the door for this one-stop strategy, because you're not using as much fuel, albeit it's at the expense of your tires.
61 laps are complete here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Daniel Botafuco leads at Atlanta. Can today be the day that he breaks through and gets his first qualifying iRacing Series win? We'll find out in under 40 laps. We're back after this here on FTF.GG. No change in the battle for the lead. It's still Daniel Botafuco here on FTF.GG as we are inside now. 35 laps to go from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. And this is the third race of the second split of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. We'll take a look at what's upcoming here on FTF.GG. Some good stuff coming up. Saturday, No, because we were just at yeah, okay. So Saturday, the FTF is at Atlanta. Sunday, I think the Winsdale Gen 4 Challenge is also at Atlanta. And then we are back in 2 weeks from Richmond. So 2 weeks from tonight, at the end of March. March 31st is our next race. Right here, not here comes April. March 31st is our last race of the month when we go and visit Richmond. Of course, we were at Richmond a year ago, another one of the racetracks repeating on the schedule from last year to this year. And should be a lot of fun. FTF Saturday should be a lot of fun here in Atlanta with these next-gen cars. And then the Winsdale Gen 4 Challenge back here Sunday. And the ARCA cars. So some pretty good stuff coming up here on FTF.GG. Wyatt Tinsley's trying to close in Daniel Botafuco here for the lead, as he's within about 2-3 truck lengths. Just trying to close in that, let's call it, interesting looking truck, paint scheme wise, and get by him.
Maybe, just maybe, but this is about consistency, I think, now. Everybody knows the game plan, and especially if you're Botafuco, Tinsley, I mean, honestly, everybody pretty much within the field, within 3 laps of one another in terms of tire strategy and pit cycle and stint length, so it's not 100% heads up, but it's about 95% heads up, and all on these drivers to make the most of the final 30 laps in order to either get big points, get a good finish, or potentially end up in victory lane.
70 laps are complete here from Atlanta. And Botafuco and Tinsley have broken away. Here's 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Knobloch, Delaney, and Doucette side by side in the 3-way battle here through 2.
Yeah, and I mean, looking right now, and it feels like a lot of these guys are just kind of saving what they had. We saw at the end of the last run, you know, it was what, about 1.5 to 2 seconds of fall off, and 20 laps into the stint, we're already at that level of fall off. So I think these guys are kind of laying off just a bit, nursing their stuff, because they don't want to be completely dead when you come to 28 laps to go. They want to have a little bit of metaphorical gas left in the tank in these trucks.
Well, I'm sure these guys don't have actual gas left in the tanks of these trucks as well here. It has turned into a bit of a fuel mileage race, and the question is, can they make it to the end? We know these guys are saving fuel, including up at the front Wyatt Tinsley. We've heard him clutching even on this green flag run. I think those all around the racetrack are saving fuel. The question is, are those that are behind Tinsley and Botafuco, so Delaney, Doucette, and Knobloch, are they better off because they are keeping distance, they're running a little bit slower, they're also trying to save a little bit more fuel?
It's not a fuel game right now. It's a tire game. Everybody now, we know they can make it to the end on fuel. That's not the question. It's, are you going to have enough tires when we get to, I think, especially lap 90 or so, to be able to run down Botafuco and Tinsley and bring it all back? That's the question. And in turn, I think it's very telling that Botafuco and Tinsley were slower than Delaney, Doucette, and Knobloch. That trio just behind them by, call it about a second and change or so. But the front 2 were slower than 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And now the question becomes, was that intentional? Are they trying to pull back and match the numbers that the back half of the top 5 are running? Or have they burned off their stuff by running so hard at the beginning of this run that they really are starting to fall off? And if that's the case, then I think Botafuco and Tinsley may be in big trouble when we get to the end of this race.
Delaney on the freshest tires out of everybody in the entire field. He was the last man to come onto pit road. So he may be the man with the best odds to win this race if he can catch Tinsley and Botafuco. He was another 0.2 faster on that last lap. So he is slowly reeling in our top 2.
Yeah, I mean, looking through the tire stints at the moment, as you said, Jonathan Delaney was the guy that was most recently on pit road. Everybody else, behind him, looking at about 24, 25 laps. But, looking up at Daniel Botafuco and Wyatt Tinsley, they're both, they pitted 26 laps ago. And, if we stay green to the end here, we got 24 to go. We'll be, about what we were at on that first stint of, 47, 48 laps on tires. And, you better believe that every single lap counts on tires at that point. So Jonathan Delaney, I think, in a great spot. Ryan Doucette in a great spot. Some of these other guys that have, decided to pit a little bit later than guys like Wyatt Tinsley, who just logged the 27th lap on this run.
23 laps to go. And Botafuco has started to pull away now from Wyatt Tinsley. The gap now 0.3 of a second. Remember, Tinsley was right in his tire tracks 10 or so laps ago. The gap has really started to open up.
Maybe, just maybe, it's another response. You don't know. That's the fascinating thing about this point in the green flag run in particular, is that you really don't know whether or not somebody's fading or whether or not somebody actually has the long run speed. But I will note that Daniel Botafuco was pretty sideways through the exit of turn 2. He's really trying to push that truck on corner exit and trying as best he can to get the throttle to turn that rear of the truck to maximize corner exit momentum, maximize straightaway speed, and decrease the lap times ever so much. Last time by, though, they were both, Botafuco and Tinsley, a 10th off of Delaney and Doucette behind them.
This top 4 has a lot going for them. So Botafuco, an eNASCAR heat champion. You've got Tinsley, who has really come alive in this season. He's done well in FTF as well, which you've seen here on FTF.gg. So again, Tinsley, I think, has been one of the most impressive drivers that we've seen so far this year in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. Delaney has been fast throughout this entire season, and Ryan Doucette, of course, don't forget, he was part of the Coke Series a season ago, got relegated out after Contender, and he's back trying to fight his way in, sitting in this 4th position right now.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, all that experience really comes in handy at a time like right now when you got to nurse your tires and nurse your fuel. I mean, you got to be thinking right now, what's the strategy? Do you want to, kind of start pressing right about now, just while you still have some of those fresher tires? Because, as easy it is to sit here and say, with 4 laps to go, make a charge at the lead because you're on fresher tires. It's not that easy inside the truck. So, I mean, what's your mindset? Are you a little more aggressive right now while you still do have that ability and, those tires at your side? Or do you wait until, the last 10 to 5 laps?
Jonathan Delaney has the fishing pole out. The gap just 0.6 of a second between Delaney and Tinsley. He is really starting to reel in the leaders from that 3 machine. Trying to take it to victory lane for the first time this season in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. So is Botafuco, so is Tinsley.
Maybe it's all about Delaney after all. He's been the only one that's been able to consistently reel them in. And it's been anywhere from 1/10 to 1/2 tenth, and he's within striking distance. Gap to the leader is somewhere in the ballpark of 8.5 tenths. So if he can find a way to click off, he doesn't even need 1/10 at this point. It's about 0.5 tenth a lap that he needs in order to be at Botafuco 5 races in. However, he would also have to pass Wyatt Tinsley as well.
Got to get around 2 trucks on old tires with 16 laps to go. He still needs to get there, and I think you're right. Getting there is one thing. Passing them is completely different. As Wyatt Tinsley almost got the wall coming off turn 2. Got a little too hot.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to that same narrative that we've kind of seen all season. It's just having clean pit stops is the key to winning races so far. With, the clean races that we've seen, no cautions, these long runs have really just dominated the racing that we've seen. I mean, think about guys like Omar Diallo, who had so much speed earlier and, was up there leading the race, and now, had a rough round of pit stops and now is sitting back in 9th place battling Garrett Conrad. It kind of used up his stuff trying to just crawl back inside the top 10. So, I mean, looking at guys like Botafuco, Tinsley, Delaney, these are all guys that had clean pit stops and are now reaping the benefits of that.
14 laps to go here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Who could possibly win this race? So there you see a train of cars. There's a huge crash in the top split. It's been all lollipops and rainbows here in this second split. No cautions, potentially going wire to wire caution free for the second time this season. Here on FTF.GG, these drivers have been exceptional throughout this season.
It's been good racing so far and good battles here towards the back too. Nice little train of trucks fighting for position. Garrett Conrath, your leader of it. Remember, your winner at Daytona for Nexus Esports. We had that race on FTF GG a few weeks ago. And then Diallo, McKissick, Rush, and Wenzel. I'll be curious to see what Diallo thinks of this race and what his Dead Zone teammates think of this race. Given the pace he had earlier, it's not going to be the win I don't think that he wanted, but from where he was, I would say this has been a nice recovery in the back half of this race to make sure that he gets valuable track position, valuable finish, but most importantly, valuable points. Because really the only thing that matters until June is just making sure you're in the top 70 so you make it to round 2.
That top 70 is the big goal. Anything other than that, you know, wins are nice, but you'd rather make the top 70 without a win, I think, than win and not make the top 70 as Diallo throws a bit of a slide job through turn 3 and 4. And man, oh man, did Garrett Conrath cut back hard on corner exit back to the bottom in 1.
Yeah, we see it here in this pack. Everybody's starting to get pretty racy. We're coming down to 11 laps to go, coming to 10 this time by. This is crunch time. I mean, 10 laps to go in this race. You got to start making your moves right now, you think.
Leaders on the front straightaway, they will take it. 10 laps to go here at Atlanta. Diallo round the outside. Conrath stuck downstairs. Here comes McKissick. He's going to push Diallo. Now he's going to go to the outside of Diallo. Diallo doesn't know where to go. Almost slams the door on McKissick. Now slams the door on Conrath. He's going to clear both of them and take the spot away.
Really nice work from Omar Diallo, but here comes McKissick with the run, but he's going to stay in line behind Diallo and stick in that 9th position as they're all going to freight train Garrett Conrath on the outside, who was running in the main, and now is all the way back at 11th.
We haven't talked about Caden Rush a lot tonight. Had good speed up inside the top 10 right now, had good speed a year ago, and was flirting with the possibility of making that top 70. Couldn't quite put it together. But a nice run here, and on, I believe, the first start in this split for us this season. Once again, Botafuco is pulled away from Tinsley, and Jonathan Delaney is kind of stuck just 3/10 behind Tinsley. He hasn't been able to close in the bubble. 9 laps to go at the stripe.
Yeah, I mean, again, 8 laps to go. This is when you start to see those tires that we were talking about earlier, because Jonathan Delaney is, you know, he pitted at lap 53, so a few laps shorter. Looks like Wyatt Tinsley just tagged the wall coming out of turn 2. Yeah, that's going to open the door for Jonathan Delaney. He's going to slide down to the inside. Now he's going to have his eyes set on the race leader, Daniel Botafuco. 7 laps to go, Jacob. This is starting to get wild, looks like.
Tinsley didn't even hit the wall in the corner. He got loose and then hit it on the straightaway. So move Jonathan Delaney into second. That's probably the hardest pass he would have had to make. That's done. He's got his sights set on that bright green bumper. It's hard to miss it from Daniel Botafuco. He's got 6.5 laps to make up 0.7 of a second.
This is going to get very, very interesting now because Delaney is the track position, but now he needs to get the speed on Botafuco. Last time by, he was a 10 slower. This time by, he was dead even. It was 6/1,000ths of a second between Botafuco and Delaney, but Botafuco is the faster of the two. It's 7/10. It's 6 laps to go. So Delaney's got to find over 1/10 a second. Now that gap has increased. Does he have enough time to make this happen?
Gotta wonder if that tire difference in age has just leveled off. And maybe Jonathan Delaney has pushed his tires a little bit too much, and they're now equal to the wear that's on Botafuco's right front tire, and really all 4 tires. That last time by, he was just barely faster. I'm talking by hundredths of a second. It's not going to be enough if he keeps that pace up over these next 5 laps, coming to 4 laps to go this time.
Absolutely, but don't count anything out of the equation. I mean, Daniel Buttafuoco, he's ran a great race so far, perfectly clean, but who knows here in this next few laps. He's got 45-lap-old tires, so, you know, just the smallest of slip-ups can result in a difference between P1 and maybe, you know, a P5, P6 tonight.
Off turn 2, Delaney. Well, he's lost time that last lap. He just has not been able to close the door, and I think the fall-off has just been too much for Jonathan Delaney. As PJ Evans, he's on pit road. I don't think he could make it with how early he stopped before. There are 3 laps to go this time by, and barring a last-second caution, which I think would send everybody to pit road, I think this might be your top 3 here in Buttafuoco, Delaney, and Tinsley.
And a big moment for Buttafuoco if he can hang on. The Rutgers University student didn't quite have the luck a few nights ago in another sport, but going to bring home a good win to Piscataway, New Jersey this evening if he can hang on. And it's been a solid race for him, especially in the second half. Had a great run off of pit road, ran down Wyatt Tinsley, and it's just been really consistent on a track that's very difficult to be consistent at because of the way you have to manage fuel and manage tires. He's made it look easy, but it's been anything but easy for Buttafuoco with 2 laps to go.
Now hold on, Delaney's pulled in by a 10th. Buttafuoco made a mistake on that last lap and then allowed Delaney to close in a little bit, but certainly not enough as we're coming to the white flag. Through turns 3 and 4. Everybody on the racetrack has behaved themselves for the second time in 3 races. White flag in the wind, 1 more lap to go for Daniel Buttafuoco. The gap is 0.6 of a second, almost 0.7 of a second as they head back to 1.
Yeah, looking right now, Jonathan Delaney down the backstretch gets a little sideways off, and that might be all she wrote. Daniel Buttafuoco down into turn number 3. Looks like he's going to be smooth sailing from here.
Buttafuoco up off the corner, back on the gas. He's going to do it on a one-stopper. Daniel Buttafuoco wins at Atlanta.
What a run for Daniel Buttafuoco. That's a professional run, I think, more than anything else. Not necessarily noisy, nothing crazy. You should see Delaney coming up to give the love tap of congratulations on the back straightaway, but just a really, really solid, clean, professional run. You start looking at people that may or may not be able to do something in round 2. You start looking for consistent speed, solid runs over the course of races in round number 1, and this could be the kind of run that springboards Daniel Buttafuoco. You remember what Steven Wilson did a few years ago? That's sort of where my mind goes with this. As we got towards the summer of this series, we ran at Dover, ran at Michigan. He started rattling off wins, but that came off the back of some solid runs early in this series. Maybe, just maybe, it's the same case for Buttafuoco. And, you know, look where Wilson's landed 2 years later. Tuesday night, he won the Coke race. So who knows? In the future, sky might be the limit.
And where did Wilson win that race? Atlanta. Daniel Buttafuoco wins Atlanta. Maybe he's going to be the next Steven Wilson. Just have to wait and find out. Buttafuoco picks up the first win on the season for him. And I believe this is the first time, at least in our split, that the guy with the highest I rating actually wins the race. Number 1, finishes number 1. Take a look at our results. Buttafuoco wins. Jonathan Delaney second. Wyatt Tinsley in third. Ryan Doucette in fourth. Justin Knobloch rounding out the top 5. Brendan Kohler in sixth. And Will Klein in seventh. Omar Diallo rebounds and finishes in eighth. Brandon McKissick finished in ninth. And Caden Rush with the top 10. Good run for him.
James Wensel finishes in the 11th position. A solid run for him alongside the 12th place finisher, Cody Cherlin. Michael Frisch brought it home in the 13th spot. 14th went to Garrett Conrad. Garrison Hogan finishes in the 15th position. 16th goes to Devin Hall. Dustin Montgomery finished in the 17th spot. 18th went to Will Cooley. Barrett Bonner was 19th, and Landon Huffman completed the top 20.
Yeah, we'll take a look at P20 first. That's Connor Shong. Matthew T. Lee, who had a spin earlier, but no caution for it. Connor Horn in 23rd. Lucas Cram, 24th. Jordan Worth, 25th. Matthew Thunhorst, 25th, sorry, for Matthew Thunhorst, who led laps early and fell off kind of after that first pit stop. Then we got Brandon Hauff, Joseph, not the result he wanted tonight. Michael Rosero, Brett Suggs, and Michael Venable round out the top 30.
Why don't we talk with... Holy cow, we've got all three. Let's talk with our race winner, Daniel Botafuco, picking up his first win on the season here at Atlanta. And Daniel, you've had really strong trucks all season long. Tonight's the night, though, where you're able to break through and come away with the win. How important is that?
That is so important. Holy cow, I can't believe we did it. It's unbelievable. I really can't. I can't put into words how much it means. What an effort by everybody over at North Force Racing. They took a chance on me and brought me over to the team. And it's a real honor to represent these guys. And, from Vince, working on the setups for my spotter, David, Presley, who's running this whole thing, and my incredible teammates, Shieldhouse, and Parker, Tyler, and Daniel, have all been a great big help, and it's unbelievable. I couldn't really believe it. I was just trying to save fuel the whole time and make sure that I kept a good gap, make sure I wasn't sliding the tires, make sure that everything was going great, and we hit the strategy right. It's just an unbelievable feeling. Coming over from NASCAR heat, it was a big risk, and only been on here 10 months, but still motivated to get the job done. Feels good to get a win. It's an unbelievable feeling.
After those rough first couple of weeks, how much does this shift the momentum looking ahead to these final 5 races on the season?
Oh, well, I'd love to win more races, but the big picture is to be consistent. That's what it takes to make it to the top 70. It's not about how many races you win. It's all about how consistent you are over the course of it. And that first race at Daytona, I made a mistake. I kind of cleared myself there. And then the next one, I just made mistakes in pit road. And here we just ran a really perfect race. So from here on out, it's just really be consistent, try to stay in the top 15 as best as I can, try to qualify well, and make sure that I hit my marks and keep it cool, calm, and collected.
Well, Daniel, congratulations on the win tonight. Best of luck 2 weeks from tonight at Richmond.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Daniel Botafuco, your race winner tonight from Atlanta. James Pike standing by with our second place finisher, Jonathan Delaney.
Jonathan Delaney comes from P2 this evening in the second split of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Jonathan, those last 10, 15 laps, you tried to run down Daniel Botafuco. Did you have anything for him? Could you have done anything differently to try and catch him?
I did not have anything for him. Even with the 2 lap fresher tires, I had nothing for him there at the end. Dirty air wasn't helping with that. I couldn't get the rotation I wanted, and he was just able to pull away with that in the clean air. So, yeah.
How difficult is it to manage tires over the long green flag runs that we did? We know that's the key to success here, but can you quantify it and qualify to the folks at home just how tricky that is to do?
Oh, it's probably one of the hardest things to do on the sim for sure. You gotta be very, very easy with the throttle, and just you gotta know the perfect right amount of inputs to do and not overstep the car. It's a very hard thing to do, and that's something I've been able to do really well at this track. I don't know why, but I've been able to do that really well at this track. So yeah.
It's a very different track we go to in 2 weeks. Richmond Raceway, the next stop on the schedule. What are your thoughts on Richmond, and are you excited to go short track racing here for the first time in the series in 2022?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Probably going to see cautions there. There's not going to be probably very many green flag runs there. I think it'll be interesting for sure. I think there's going to be a few lanes we're going to have to work to pass and whatnot. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Jonathan, congratulations on your P2 finish. Thanks as always for the time. We look forward to seeing you at Richmond in 2 weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Jonathan Delaney with his best run of this eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series so far this season, P2 to P3 with Wyatt Tinsley. It's all Caleb Hoffman.
Yeah, Wyatt, P3 tonight. One-stop strategy. We saw you kind of peel off earlier than everybody else. Do you think, that 3-lap difference was probably what gave you third place instead of first?
So I went too early. That was my problem. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to scream at y'all. I was talking to Jonathan Delaney there, and Daltis got 1, 2, 3, and top split. My teammates finished fourth and fifth. Yeah, so I pitted. I didn't save enough gas, and I should have went. If I would have went to 51, I probably would have won the race. But I didn't want to push the issue and run out of gas, so I decided to just go 50, and that was just a death to me. I had enough fuel to make it to the end. The tires came down to the issue. That's all. But yeah, it was a really good race. I think Andrew Navarro for the set was really, really good set. And I needed that really good run because last week and the week before I finished 27th to 25th. So I needed this run.
Yeah, and tonight you ran a relatively clean race in the past 2 weeks at Vegas and Daytona. It hasn't really been that for you. I mean, what was the biggest factor that changed tonight that was, that enabled you to finish P3?
Talent racing. That was all draft tracks, and you couldn't pass or anything, and yeah, all talent track. And then next week going to Richmond, home track, favorite track. It's really good there. We're gonna be balling too. That's about it. Yeah, good win, Daniel. It was really, really fun. Just happy with the performance there. 2 spots shy of P1, but I appreciate Andrew and the boys on Tranquility here, and Martin Sports and iFlag for sponsoring us. Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations, P3. We look forward to seeing you at Richmond.
Yep. See you there. You have a nice one.
Third place finisher Wyatt Tinsley tonight from Atlanta. So, gentlemen, 3 races down. Now 5 races remain. 1 caution between the 3 races that we've called so far. It's unbelievable what these guys have done throughout these first 3 races.
So you say that, but the problem is that the next 3 tracks are all less than a mile in length between Richmond and Bristol and Dover too. Can't forget. Worth noting that Bristol is going to be on the concrete, while the Coke Series is going to be running on the dirt that week. So, quick programming note there for what's coming up in 4 weeks' time. But we're going to go proper short track racing. We're going away from these 1.5 miles in a bit. We don't go back to 1.5 miles till May when we go to Kansas. So it's going to be a different set of skills that these drivers are going to have to use. We've sort of completed the first portion of the schedule, as it were. So we can start to sort of put a bookmark in this, call it the end of a chapter, and we'll start a new chapter of round 1 of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series in 2 weeks' time when we get to Richmond, which is always a fun place to go, especially in these trucks. I'm very much looking forward to what we are going to see at the end of March.
And you're right, Richmond, Bristol on the asphalt, or on the concrete, I guess. And then we go to Dover, then Kansas and Charlotte. That's round 1. We do go to Bristol dirt, just not in round 1. We do it in round 2.
In round 2.
Toward the end of round 2 in September.
They flip. It's interesting, but you're right. Good point.
Yeah, that might be a week where I'm not here, I'm hiding under the desk. I'm not sure I want to be here to witness Bristol dirt with the trucks. Caleb, once again, strategy makes a big part of this race just because we were able to keep it green for so long. Do you think strategy, looking at these next 3 races, all short tracks for the most part, is that strategy going to be as prevalent moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think our last caution was what? The end of lap 1 at Las Vegas 2 weeks ago, because we ran wire to wire tonight. I mean, a part of you has to think, at some of these short tracks, there's way less room for error. We're going to be beating and banging, all that kind of stuff, which, creates that opportunity for more yellows. But then again, look at Daytona. We had one incident, but it didn't bring out a yellow. I mean, and that's a place where you're expecting the big one all the time. I think with this second split, with the drivers that we've seen, they're comfortable running consistently. They're not going all out for the win. They just want to ride and make sure they get into that top 70. So, as easy as it is to sit here and say, yeah, it's going to be, 3-4 cautions that we're dealing with there. I mean, I think potentially we could see pit strategy, tire management, that same kind of thing that we've been seeing all season long carry over into those short tracks.
Wouldn't it be so very easy, Jacob, for Richmond to come down to a late race yellow flag and it become a pit strategy race where somebody comes in to get fresh tires and somebody stays out to keep the track position, and it's a battle of strategy A, strategy B, figure out who wins that race? Wouldn't it play out like that?
It certainly could. I think that's how we've seen Richmond races play out in the past. I don't see why this time could be any different. But you know what we're going to have to do? We're just going to have to wait for 2 weeks. And by this time, 2 weeks from now, we'll probably kind of know what's going to happen by the time Richmond is said and done. Daniel Bonafuco, your race winner tonight from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. On behalf of everybody from FTF.GG, our producer, Zach Johnson, Justin Melillo down on pit road in the broadcast booth with me, Caleb Huffman, and James Pike. I'm Jacob Pitts. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you with FTF on Saturday night here from Atlanta, and we will see you in 2 weeks from Richmond. Good night.